Self-projection is important because it's what you project out into the world. And it really usually doesn't have to do just with what you say, although the words we speak are important, but it's everything else. So for example, when we look at communication, the rules of communication, the majority of what you communicate to the world is through your body. What are you communicating with this? So people kind of feel you. Your body gives off cues. Think of it that way. They're cues. And then off those cues, people begin to assess you. They put a picture together of what they think you're like. Also, the other thing people absorb from you is your paralinguistics. It's your voice. It's how you speak, your cadence, whether you go really, really fast or slow. Do you use pauses? Do you let your voice boom, or do you constrict it and make it super small because you're shy or nervous? That's projection. And 7% is actually the words that come out of our mouth. So the majority of what you project out into the world is this. It's this tool. And I want you to think about it as you move, because what we care about is how you show up. An important factor to keep in mind is it's not how you see you. Yes, you matter. And obviously our internal drivers matter, right? Our self-confidence and our self-regulation. But when it comes to self-projection, it's what they see. It's how other people see you. And you can manage that. I want you to think of it like this. It's your first impression. When people don't know you, they've never met you before, your first impression matters. It only takes about 0.425 seconds for somebody to decide who they think you are. And the problem is, if somebody makes a negative impression of you, it is very, very difficult to reverse it. So this is why we always want to try from the get-go to get people to see us in the most positive light. I want to set you up for success from the get-go. And how you come off to others, how people feel you and see you, matters. Sometimes I hear people say, well, you know what? I'm just going to be me and I'm going to show up, and that's that. Good luck with that. Because if you are just bringing one version of you, and if you're just going to be you and you hope that version of you registers with every single person, it's going to fall flat. I want you to think, what am I projecting? What am I showing people? And am I showing people the part of me, the version of me that I want them to know? It's not that you're being fake or manufacturing something that isn't true. You're not one thing. You're not one-dimensional. There are different versions of you. And I want you to think, as you're navigating relationships and conversations, what version of you are you going to pull out and bring to the table? Actually, today, first impressions start with your social feed, to be quite honest. Like, people, they're going to go through your stuff and they're going to figure out who you are before you even walk into the room. Think about what you post. And I want you to have the mindset that anything you post, somebody else is going to see. And is it the image that you want to project? Because before you walk into a room, today, people do their homework, not because they're stalking, or maybe some people do, but they want to get an idea of who they're dealing with. So just make sure that whatever you're posting or sharing is conveying the image that you want. Because if it's not, and it's pictures of you with your little kitten muffin, it might not be the message you want to give people. Because in a situation like that, you might be starting off in a negative if you're trying to convey strength and authority. Just remember, what am I showing versus what am I? It is not what you say. It is not. We don't tell people who we are. We show people who we are. This is where self-projection comes. So think of something as super simple as your dress. I learned this actually. It's U.S. Secret Service 101. We had an informal policy of what we were allowed to wear. You typically won't see a Secret Service agent, that's with the president or any other protectee, dressed in anything other than a black suit, a navy blue suit, or a dark gray suit. And, for that matter, the shirts that we wore underneath, white or light blue. That's it. Because they were trying to control the image of what they project out to the world. Even the Secret Service sunglasses. You see agents in shades? Two reasons why that happens. Usually we're outdoors, so you want to be able to see, just for kind of a more tactical approach. And second, I don't want you to know what I'm looking at. And when you can't see people's eyes, it's a little bit unsteady. It's a concealment. I can see you, you can't see me. So I want you to think of it from a psychological standpoint, because you're projecting out to people a seriousness. Now, black, dark gray and navy blue, those colors send out a certain tone. They send out, I'm serious, I'm severe. Think twice before you mess with me. Now, if I show up in a pink suit or even a lighter suit, a beige or a white, it's going to send a different tone. Now, how we project ourselves isn't just through, our clothes. It's also through our bodies and our body language. I want you to think about this for a moment. How do you sit? Your posture? Are you taking up space? So something as simple as chin up, shoulders back. Are you commanding yourself? Are you commanding your presence? If you show up and you're distracted, you're on your phone, you're small, you're kind of almost making yourself disappear, that sends a different message. It sends the message, I don't matter, don't look at me. But when you own your space, when you take up space, and you enter a room, you send the message, I matter, I deserve to be here. And you do that not by saying it, but by showing it. In the U.S. Secret Service, I was the interrogator, so I did a lot of interviews all over the country when it came to trying to solve crimes. And often I would go and help local police departments to help them with their most difficult cases. When I walked into the interview room, I was always aware of how I introduced myself to someone. I had to keep in mind I had somebody who was likely scared. Most likely they were seen as a suspect. I was not a person they wanted to speak to, because anything you say or do can be used against you in a court of law. So people were extremely guarded. I had to work very hard to do what? Push down those walls. I didn't want them guarded. I wanted them relaxed. And I wanted to create an open flow of information. So I could come in and say, hi, I'm Special Agent Poumpouras. I'm here to interview you about this particular case. Have a seat. Or I could come in and say, hi, I'm Evy. It's really nice to meet you. Can I get you something to drink or a glass of water? Do you need to use the restroom? Okay, please take a seat anywhere you like. I just gave you two versions of Evy. The first version of Evy is pretty strong, severe, serious. Okay. The second version of Evy is, hey, we're relaxed. Let's sit down and talk. What version do I want? Well, it depends what I want. The first version is, I need you to know I'm in charge. You look like you're a handful. Let's nix this before we even start. Have a seat. I also showed you where to sit. And how did I introduce myself? Hi, I'm Special Agent. Because I just want to make sure they understand that. And I used what? My last name. I set the tone of how I want that narrative to go. Now, if I have somebody where I'm like, this person's going to be hard to crack. I need to create some rapport, have a genuine talk. I need to disarm them. Hi, I'm Evy. Nice to meet you. No titles, no need to remind them I'm a special agent, and I use my first name. Can I get you a glass of water, something to drink? Do you need to use a restroom? Very human things, very relaxed things. And then also, instead of telling them where to sit, I said, please, take a seat anywhere you like. Because I want them to have a different version of Evy. You can project the tone of what you want people to absorb in something as simple as your introduction to them. We love to put people in boxes. It's kind of the way we simplify things. People are super complex, and what we do to simplify it in our heads is we love to put people in boxes. I'm going to put you in this box. I'm going to label you as such. Boom, my day's done. Easy peasy for me. However, you want to make sure people put you in the right box. If it's not the right box, it's going to be a bad day for you and maybe a bad career for you. What do I mean? There's something called horns and halos. It is how people see us. People can see us in a positive light. We'll call it halo. I've got the halo around my head. You always see me in a positive light. You've seen me from the beginning because I made a really good first impression. Evy is competent. She cares about me. She's genuine. I see Evy in this positive light. She's got a halo over her head, which means no matter what Evy does, more than likely, I'm always going to see Evy in a positive light. Horns is, you see me in a negative light. I made a negative first impression, which we know is extremely difficult to reverse. So now, no matter what I do, you're going to see me in a bad light. I'll give you an example. Let's say I show up, I'm doing this class, I bring my laptop. And as I'm opening up my laptop, I'm having a little bit of a hard time with it, a technical difficulty. If you see me with halo, your assumption is going to be, oh, it's Evy's computer. I wonder what glitch it's having. Because you're not going to assume I'm the problem. I've got a halo. I'm competent. I'm good. Evy's in the good box. But if you see me with horns, what you're going to think is, there she is. She doesn't know what she's doing. She can't even turn on a computer. There's Evy. Another problem. That's the difference. When people put you in this box, you live there for quite a while. We want people to put you in the halo box as much as possible and within, right, what we can control. Because when we are in that halo box, even when we mess up, people will see us in a positive light. Even when we make mistakes, even when we struggle. That's just Evy. Evy's good. She's solid. She's all right. But when we are in the horn box, then no matter what we do, we're a mess. We're a struggle. We don't know what we're doing. We lack competence. So you want to try to navigate what box people put you in. Now, for those of you who have been put in the horn box, we've all been there. We've all visited that land. Don't worry, there's still a way out of it. Now, again, we don't want to have somebody put us there from the onset because it is an uphill battle to try to get out of it. However, you can get out of it. And this is how. Self-projection. Now you know that there are cues that you gave off that help put you into that box. So pay attention to the cues that you give off so that you can get yourself out of that box. Think about your presence and how you, honestly, like, how do you enter a room? Do you pay attention to your body? Or do you just walk in? How do you carry yourself? How do you command yourself? How do you sit at the table? In fact, here's an exercise. Next time you have a work meeting, I want you to sit down and assess every single person in that room. Look at how they're sitting. And then look at what cues they're giving off. Size them up. This person is this person is this person is this. There's no magic pill. There's no magic bullet. It's not, hey, do this one thing, boom. Everybody's going to be eating out of your hands. No. It's all the little things you do. One thing after another, after another, after another. It's all these little things that we are talking about here today, that if you do them, and if you incorporate them into your life, if you pay attention, and if you're deliberate, and you think through these things, you're going to make the changes that you want. But you have to care. I can't care for you. You have to care. If you do care and you want to change the projection that you put out into the world, then I'm here for you.